Hello everybody. Today I'd like to start with a short story. It's a cross-cultural interview taking place between an English interviewer and a German interviewee. Now, in this interview, the British guy makes assumptions about the German based on the fact that he's rather highbrow, blunt in his conversation, formal, and his demeanor is very academic and stiff. But this does not mean that the German is rigid, inflexible, or reserved. It's more a case that the interviewer assumes that the German is this way. Today I'd like to talk about focusing on interviewing and preparation for getting a job here in New Zealand. Some things you may not have thought about, some things that you need to know, and some things you probably already know, but it's great to remind yourselves about. Alright, so you may have some great skills. You're in demand as a skilled migrant, but that may not be enough. Coming here, you are at some disadvantage based on perception about who you are. You see, a local person is going to be less of a risk. They're going to be a known quantity. They have a verifiable history. So one of the things I want to talk about today is how to downplay that weakness and how to show your strength. Your strengths are the fact that you are fresh, you have an open mind, you are new to the country and you are ready for something new and adventurous. First of all, you need to understand the Kiwi workplace culture. New Zealand interviews tend to be less formal. Of course, this is going to depend on the culture of the company. If you're working in finance, insurance and banking, it'll be a little bit more formal. Obviously, something like engineering or advertising is going to be quite informal. In fact, you may even be invited to have a beer with the interviewer. At interviews, interviewers will begin by starting with small talk. They'll talk about common interests that you might have and look at your CV and look at your hobbies. They may just talk about the weather, sport, that type of thing. One thing that you need to be very aware of in New Zealand is your form of communication. Okay? So New Zealanders tend to speak in a less direct manner than some other cultures. This is the British part of New Zealand culture coming through. So now let me give you a second story. New Zealand is traditionally an egalitarian society. What that means is the people who came here originally ran away from the British Isles. England at that time was very much a class-based society based on titles, wealth and status. So New Zealanders and Australians escaped from this kind of society, and that'll explain some of the informality that comes from living in this part of the world. So you need to understand the Kiwi workplace. You need to show an employer that you are familiar with how the workplace works here, that you will be a good fit to their company. So how can you deal with this? Well, practice interviews is an excellent way that we recommend. We do offer this service exclusively to you as our clients here at New Zealand Migration. Take advantage of it. Some jobs are going to require an understanding of Maori culture. This would be so in the public sector, jobs such as in health. For example, a nurse has had training at school about how to deal with Maori and Polynesian culture. How can you deal with this? Well, I strongly recommend you go and do some research online before you come to an interview. And once again, that's where we can help you. I will be happy to talk to you about this kind of thing. How does your qualification compare with New Zealand ones? Well, there are some professional groups you can join here. As you can see, just a few of them are scrolling across the screen, but I have an extensive list which I welcome you to contact me for. Okay, so you have a good CV and that got you a foot in the door. But now you need to impress them at the interview. At the interview, you're going to be judged based on how you act, how you handle yourself during the interview, and your appearance. First, let's look at preparation. Doing groundwork, doing your research, your homework is really important if you want to anticipate what questions you're going to get for the interview. The interview is your chance to present your skills, experience, your personality. So let's look at researching the organization. What is the profile of the company? Are you aware of their products, services? Use the internet, business, industry, magazines, etc. Company videos are a fantastic way to see how the company wants to appear. You want to look like the image that's portrayed in the video. Think about your networks. If you're fortunate, you might have somebody who's already worked or working in the company. Excellent. Next thing, visit the workplace. It is really useful if you can do a trial run, drive there and check it out before you get there. In fact, you might be able to phone the company and say, look, I've been asked to come in for an interview this Friday. I'm just in the area and I was wondering if I could just pop in for a few minutes, have a look around and ask a few questions to help me prepare. Okay, they may say no, but they will remember you because of your enthusiasm and passion. And if you do get to look around, you'll get to discover a lot about the culture of the company. You can, for example, look at how people dress there, what words and language that they're using, and importantly, the location, car parking, that type of thing. Many employers here say that what actually matters more than skills and experience is passion and motivation. They can teach skills, but they cannot teach those things, passion and motivation. So you want to impress them. One thing when you go into the interview, I would take a small notepad to write down notes while you're being interviewed. At this point, you could actually write down their names. It will impress them to see just how organized you are as a person. Now, a very important part of what I want to leave with you today is about stories. You've noticed that I've used already a couple of stories to emphasize points. Mark Twain, the famous American storyteller, said, "Don't write 'the lady screamed.' No, bring her on stage, let her scream." Okay. When you are preparing for the interview, consider stories that back up and prove what you've been talking about. If you say that you are passionate, think of some stories in your previous job that back that up. Now, the next thing I'd like to emphasize is that there are increasingly non-traditional forms of interviewing. It's actually been estimated that 40% of companies here are using psychometric evaluation tests. These tests you'll find particularly in areas such as retail, banking, utilities, insurance, HR. So be aware of that. How can you prepare yourself? Well, career1.com.au has a lot of useful online examples, practice tests. Another non-traditional way is through Skype, video, telephone, group interviews. So you need to learn to put a smile in your voice when you're talking because they cannot see you. I do have a lot of great questions available for you to deal with these problems. So once again, I encourage you to contact us. Right, so just to summarize what we've talked about so far. 1, have your evidence ready. Great examples of these are stories. You may bring a portfolio to your interview as well to back up what you have claimed. 2, know where the interview is. Maybe you could visit the place beforehand. 3, be prepared for the unexpected. Be prepared for psychometric evaluations, for a phone interview. Okay, so what are they looking for in interviews? There are a lot of common threads that come through in their questions. They base their questions on these. Can you add some value to this company? Does it show that you appreciate that you're being interviewed? Do you want to work here? Are you willing and interested in improving yourself and your skills? And what do you have to offer us? So there are a few tips you can use for answering questions. Most interviews will have a lead-in time, introduction, settling in, as mentioned before. A lot of small talk, but this is important. Speak clearly and vary the tone of your voice to show that you're interested and enthusiastic. Give yourself time to think about each question. Pause. If you're not sure what they mean, it's okay to ask. Show your listening skills. Listen to questions carefully. Let the interviewer lead the questioning. Be diplomatic. What do I mean by this? Well, don't say anything negative about previous companies or employees. It puts you in a bad light. Speak from experience. That's those stories again. Show what you have learned and how you have improved. This will be particularly useful when talking about your strengths and weaknesses. Be positive about the skills you have. It's terrible when you hear somebody say, well, I don't have experience in that area. You're downgrading yourself. You need to be positive. And I don't know if I need to tell you this, but do turn your phone off before you enter the building. There is nothing worse. That would be an interview killer. As I mentioned, there are generic questions that are asked in different ways by every kind of industry. They want you to describe yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, difficult situations, what you did, how you handled yourself, perhaps problems with co-workers. Why you think you would be good for this organization? What do you have to offer? What do you know about our company? What are your goals? So, the more you can analyze and think about yourself, the better prepared you are going to be. So now we're coming to the end of the interview. Do you have any questions? Well, of course you do. Let me tell you another story. An HR agency I knew had an excellent candidate, an excellent CV. This person should have gotten a job. They went to interview after interview. The HR agency decided to call this person and see what was going wrong. They did a mock interview and they found two things. One, when it came to asking questions, the person said, no, I don't have anything. I'm quite happy with what you've told me today. Yeah, that's a fail. The second thing was going to interview and being questioned by just one of the interviewers while the other person was taking notes. The interviewee wasn't looking around the room at the other person, so that person felt disengaged. Remember, the interview is a chance for you to shine, a chance to show that you really want to be part of this team, that you have a lot to offer them. So I invite you to do practice interviewing with us. One last thing, after the interview, it's quite common these days for companies to go and check out your social networking profiles. Just simply typing your name into the internet and to see what comes up. Voila, you've told them that you are a responsible person and there's a photo of you on Facebook binge drinking the night before. Yeah, that's not going to look good. So after the interview, you can go through a personal checklist and think about how you can improve for the next one, what you could do. Simple stuff. Were you on time? Did you have some good stories and examples to back up what you claimed? Did you have a smile in your voice? Did you hijack the interview? When it comes to storytelling, your stories should be no longer than 60 to 90 seconds. You're going to bore them beyond that. Have you done something differently you could do? Did you ask strong questions? Did you dress correctly? There are many other things that we don't have time for here today, but I encourage you to contact me for help. If you didn't get the job, once again, contact us and let's see what you're doing right or wrong. Let's look at your CV. Let's do some mock interviews. So I encourage you to do some interviewing practice with me. Feel free to schedule an appointment to practice interviewing. My email address is daryl@nzmigration.com. Thank you and good luck.